the success of such a move by the DCI? What would they charge him for today? Kindly just paint a picture of what the legal process requires and what we expect out of this.
So thank you very much. I think what you are saying, as I've listened through, this is just the season where political madness sets in and people always throw inflammatory statements, people say things, and that's why you've tried to mention from curses to threats and all of you. Now, for the case of my former colleague, we served with him when he was Speaker Nyeri, I was Speaker Nandi, for John Kaguchia, you have a thin line that, that can transcend either side of the law, in the sense that NCIC is supposed to monitor hate speech, whatever is considered hate speech, anything that is considered insightful. So you are looking at whatever is considered insightful to the extent of disturbing public peace, or with an end objective of causing possibly lack of cohesion, and that's why it's called cohesion commission, so that anything that can come in between the relations of a people, of a society, is then considered to be within the purview of NCIC. Now, for the case of MP John Kaguchia, you have the element of physical harm, which in itself is a threat to violence, because he said we will hunt them down. We'll get them even under their beds. Number two, he went further. It was directed to individuals, where he said, if I'm to go to what was shared on the media, where he was saying, we'll not even go to their dowry payments, and we will know them, we will profile them. So that then splits or spills over to a threat of individual, because it means we have to isolate these persons. And you know, the moment we said we isolate this person, then it's one step away from mob justice. So that we want to ostracize this person, and that's why we will not attend their events, we will not support them, we will not, you know, technically it's harm towards a person. It's not a group of a people, it's a person. So that then clearly then falls the ambit of a threat to violence, physical harm, and what have you. And that's then what I believe led the Director of Criminal Investigation, because that's a criminal offense. So the question then is how they'll frame the charges. I foresee them framing the charges around this threat to person, more or less like willful intention to commit violence. So that then will fall the purview of our criminal penal code. And as a result, I would believe that's what he would be charged with that. Secondly, I think those some one step skipped, because I believe, of course, because the courts were close at that point, when John Kaguchia, I think, was aware that he was subject to an arrest, I think at that point, legally speaking, you always quickly seek to have an anticipatory bail, so that at the point you are arrested and you have anticipatory bail, that acts as a shield, whereby possibly you can proceed, record a statement, but not detain because of the anticipatory bail you have. But I suspect by virtue it was in the night, that could not have happened. And that's why his lawyers would only act the next morning, which was yesterday morning, before he could leave the premises. So you see then that what follows then is an arrest was done, because in the morning there was an arrest, which then meant change of plan. Instead of looking for an anticipatory bail, they then sought to have more or less a cash bail and all that. Now the challenge is one, and this is always the problem, which basically is more of operational than legal. When you obtain a court order, it's upon you to serve, because the court has given you an order. So it's upon you to serve. And then service has to be proven to the court of law that you've served. And if the other party has failed to act on the orders, then that would be considered a case of contempt. So I suspect yesterday, what you see Senator Methu was referencing to, possibly they had been unable to serve. Okay. Possibly it was a challenge for them even to know where he was being detained. Was he in the DCI headquarters? And upon them finding out that he was in Kamkunji, it was late in the night, and possibly they were unable to serve the court order. And that is more operational in nature, which then means by today morning, in pursuit of the same order, they will then proceed to court. If the DCI are preferring charges before a magistrate's court, because that's an offense that is preferred around the chief magistrate's court, if they are bringing the MP before a magistrate's court, then the lawyers of the MP then would be able to produce the court that comes from a higher court. So then that becomes the work of the magistrate. In the alternative, the government state council can seek the discharge of the orders, which I think the court will insist first that let them be respected, and possibly, I'm trying to see how to go around that, because I don't think whatever the High Court judge would wish to discharge before the same have been acted upon. So possibly there may be a case of him being preferred before the High Court judge and said, okay, fine, we are seeking then that we have complied, but at the same time we are seeking for the charging, which would mean immediate rearrest and charging before a magistrate's court. So my answer to this would be, it is a question of preventive. I like what Wanjiku Muya said, corrective justice. But why should we wait for corrective justice? Because IBC acted differently from NCIC. The complaint has been that NCIC comes late to the party. It's until a problem has occurred.
Yes.
And they don't act in quickly. But IBC was different because theirs was process-based, and by-election was due in 2-3 days. They acted within that time frame. I believe it's a question of taking responsibility. As we said here on this panel, whatever the responsibility lies with us politicians. You don't have to get there. You don't have to get carried away. I could see clearly, since Ol Kalou win, DCP has been on the offensive. And the offensive has almost gone, like they have gone off tirade.
Yeah.
And I really pity and empathize with the political players within Mount Kenya. At this rate, they'll be told, you have to come prostrate and worship before Mnyoro, and then you can proceed.
Let me cut you short there. We need to take a break. When we come back, we continue this conversation. Is it just a matter of selective justice, or have the politicians crossed the line and they're not willing